What's up, guys? It's Eric and Marcus from Rare Candy, and welcome to our Crimson Invasion set review. I know we're a little late getting this one out, but we've been busy grinding away on Shining Legends content for the past couple weeks. But yeah, we finally have our set review. This is going to be our 4th Sun and Moon set, and the cards from here are going to be comprised of Japan's SM4, the Awoken Hero, and the Transdimensional Beast SM4 like subsets that they have. So if you guys are unfamiliar with how our sets normally work, Japan normally has 2 sets. They get lumped together for us, and that's what we're going to get. So it's going to be Crimson Invasion. I don't think the official set list has been released yet. So for all we know, there might be some weird promo or something from Japan that is going to get lumped in for the international release. But this should be pretty much all of the important cards that you need to know about. So apologize if we miss one random thing here, but like I said, it should be everything that we need. And also, I guess the new big mechanic for the set is going to be the Ultra Beast from the Sun and Moon games are finally getting represented in the TCG. So that's going to be kind of the new big gimmick for this set, but there's still plenty of other normal GXs in Pokemon that we're going to talk about as well. Alright, so the first cards we're going to take a look at are going to be from the Woke Hero subset that we have. And so to kick it off, we have a Fire Pokemon. Actually, it's going to be Alolan Marowak. He's finally getting his first representation in the TCG. So I don't know about you, Marcus, but I really dig Alolan Marowak. Was never a big fan of him from Gen 1, but I thought he was pretty dope in Sun and Moon.
Oh yeah, he looks cool for sure.
And so yeah, we finally have Alolan Marowak. Let's take a look at this guy. 100 hit point, stage 1, fire type. And we're looking at mainly for its first attack, Fire Dance, for a whopping 0 energy. Choose a number of fire energy from your discard pile equal to the amount of energy attached to your opponent's Pokemon. Then attach them to your Pokemon in any way that you like. And I guess we can mention the other attack as well. For 2 fire energy and a colorless, 70 damage, flip 2 coins to 70 times the amount of heads. If you flip at least 1 heads, your opponent's active is now burned. So 3 energy on average to do about 90 if you count the burn. So really not what we want to play this card for, mainly going to be for this first attack. And, energy acceleration for 0 energy seems kind of good.
Yeah.
And I've seen some people mention this card online about, kind of liking it. But to be honest, I can't say I'm that impressed. I mean, you have to think, well, if you're attaching fire energy out of your discard pile, you're probably playing some sort of Volcanion deck or Turtonator or something like that. But that deck already has energy acceleration in the form of Max Elixir, also the Baby Volcanion, which can do damage, while it's accelerating energy. And the energy that you're accelerating out of the discard pile with Alolan Marowak is kind of conditional on what your opponent has on their field. So, and it's a stage 1, so that means you can't do this until turn 2 at the earliest. So, I don't know. I gotta say, I'm not too impressed with this card overall. What do you think, Marcus?
I agree. I'm not like super impressed with it either. Like the attack's definitely interesting. Like it's cool that it doesn't cost any energy, and it's a form of energy acceleration. But yeah, like you said, you got to evolve into it. So it'd be better if it was something like a basic where you could like just drop it and do it like in one turn or something. But you have to like set up an Alolan Marowak to be able to use the attack and stuff. And then like you said, also like the main fire decks and stuff are things that already have energy acceleration and whatnot. So I don't know if it'll make that huge of an impact, but it definitely seems interesting at the least.
Yeah, I'll say this. The one thing Alolan Marowak does have going for it is that you can attach the energy even to evolutions and, things like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess it has that going for it since Max Elixir doesn't really do that. But, I don't know. Overall, I just think everything about it is way too conditional and situational. Even if you can get one of these out very quickly, maybe your opponent doesn't have a lot of energy in play. That means you can't, get a lot of energy out of your discard pile.
Yeah.
And you have to have the energy already in your discard pile. I would say even if this was attaching energy out of deck, I would still not be that excited for this card. So
Yeah.
I don't know about you, man. I'm going to say Alolan Marowak isn't very good. I mean, the attack is... 0 energy for energy acceleration is pretty cool, but I just think it's far too situational to ever really see play. What do you think, man?
Yeah, I agree. I'm gonna say it's not very good either. It's yeah, like you said, situational. Um, it just it's something that's kind of like you could maybe tech it into a deck if it was a basic, but you you don't want to like you have to evolve into it, and you don't want to revolve around, you know, I'm gonna attach my energies this way, like this is how I'm gonna accelerate energy, because like you said, it's situational. Your opponent might not be putting down a ton of energy and stuff. You might, like if you do play this, like what do you play? Like a 1/1 if you're teching it or something, or maybe 2/2 or something. So then you could prize a piece or whatever, and then not even get to do it. So it's interesting, but I'm gonna say it's not very good.
Yeah, it's another thought too. Is I mean, we haven't really focused in on this, but it's also an attack and not an ability.
Yeah.
So if you look at something like Vikavolt or Gardevoir or even Magnezone, like they all have decent energy accelerating abilities that don't take up your attack for turn. But then the argument against that is, well, Baby Volcanion, its energy acceleration is an attack. And yes, while that's true, you're still doing damage, which can be easily amplified by Volcanion EX as well.
Yeah.
I'll say the one redeeming thing that might make someone worth holding on to a couple of these is if we get a good Alolan Marowak GX that has nice synergy with this, that could be a reason to maybe play this card at some point. But I think even then, I'm not sure what type of Marowak would have to be printed for this ability to be worth playing in a deck. So overall, I'm just gonna say the card's not good.
So next up, we've got Alolan Golem GX, and its first attack for a lightning and 2 colorless, hammer in, just 80 damage. And then its second attack, 2 lightning and 2 colorless, super magnetic tackle. It does 200 damage, but then you do 50 damage to yourself. And then its GX move, Heavy Rock GX, is 2 lightning and a colorless, does 100 damage, and then your opponent can't play any cards from their hand during their next turn. It doesn't. I don't like if it was 200, that'd maybe be interesting, but like if it didn't do damage to itself and stuff. But I don't know. I just feel like once you attack, then you're gonna get one shot by something, I assume, because you only have 200 HP left. It's already a lot to set up anyway, since it's 2 lightning and 2 colorless. So I feel like it's also a stage 2. So I don't know if it's that great. It might be interesting somehow, maybe, but I just can't think of any way that this would like really like see play or like be a good card. And it's got 4 retreat costs. Wow. I don't know. Yeah, I just don't really see a way that this would like be too great in see play. But I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much completely agree with you. I mean, Heavy Rock GX, I think, is the one thing that catches your attention about this card. 100 damage is terrible for 4 energy, but we've seen cards in the past where it's like your opponent can't play item cards or they can't play special energy. I don't remember the last time we had a card that said your opponent can't play any cards from their hand during their next turn. Like I don't want to underestimate how powerful that effect is, but you can't build an entire deck around one GX attack.
Yeah.
I kind of mentioned this with Mewtwo GX in our Shining Legends set review. Good GX attack, but what are you going to do for the rest of the game after you use that one singular attack? And even though Super Magnetic Tackle can do 200 damage, 200 damage is kind of an awkward number because yes, with a Choice Band, you will knock out something like a Gardevoir GX, but against some of the other Stage 2 Pokemon like Metagross, for example, you do come up a little bit short. You would also need a Choice Band in order to knock out some of the Stage 1 GXs like Golisopod, just as an example. If it was 210 or 220, I might like it a little better, but the fact that you're going to sometimes two-shot things with this attack, I don't really like. But I guess you could make the argument then you could do Hammer in first for 80 to soften them up and use Super Magnetic Tackle to finish them off if need be. But I don't know, man. It's heavy ball searchable. I think that's worth mentioning.
Yeah.
That's the upside to its monstrous 4 energy retreat. 250 hit points is good on a stage 2 GX, but once you get this thing out, just how do you win? Like
Yeah.
that's the biggest problem. And fighting is actually a really bad weakness to have after Crimson Invasion because of a card that we're going to get to later in the set as well. So overall, I just think this is I think it's a good GX attack, but beyond that, I think it's pretty terrible.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so next up, we haven't really had many good cards yet, but we have a Gengar up next. Let's see if that changes anything. So we have Gengar, 130 hit points on a Stage 2 non-GX. That's a solid amount, I suppose. Maybe a little below average, but decent enough, I guess. But it has this ability, Eroding Curse. Whenever your opponent attaches an energy from their hand to one of their Pokemon, place 2 damage counters on that Pokemon. And its attack for a Psychic and DCE to 70, and your opponent's active is now confused. So I think the really, thing of interest for this card is going to be this ability, Eroding Curse. And, taking 2 damage counters might not seem like a lot, but this card actually has some synergy with the old Gengar back from Breakthrough that if your opponent has, I believe it's 3 damage counters on them, they get knocked out. So if you play maybe this Gengar as a 1 or 2 of to maybe expedite that process, I could see some use for it as a tech, but I don't think this would be its own deck necessarily. I would definitely see this being a support Pokemon as no more than a 1 or 2 of, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe if you get 4 of these guys in play somehow, your opponent takes 8 damage counters every time they attach an energy, that could, I don't know, that could be something.
Yeah.
I don't know, Marcus, what do you see? Do you see this being more of like its own deck? Do you see this being like kind of just like a tech for the old Gengar, or do you see this like a supporting Pokemon in like another archetype? What are you kind of thinking?
I think maybe more of a supporting Pokemon. Again, it's a kind of a situational, like you can't rely on your opponent being able, like, attaching enough damage to like have a huge impact, I guess. Now, does this work where like with Gardevoir, for example, if they keep attaching from their hand, they'll take it even more? Like,
yes.
Okay, cool. So that is really neat, and that does help it a lot. But I still don't think it can be its own deck. Just because, like, its attack is okay, I guess. And its ability is really cool, but I just don't know if this ability... Like, I don't know if this Gengar is something worth building a deck around, but it could definitely be something that you could maybe tech into a deck.
Yeah, I mean, you can maybe make a fun deck with this. Like, one thing that kind of comes to mind is play, like, 4 Potown, 4 Gengar, maybe, like, a Tapu Koko or a Latios from Shining Legends, Espeon EX, and just, like, aim to, like, kind of passively, accumulate all this damage on your opponent's field, and then just de-evolve everything to win.
Right.
That could be something I could see, but I don't know. I don't see it being, like, competitive, though. Unless somehow that old Gengar from Breakthrough becomes competitive, I think that would be the only time I could really see this card doing that well.
Yeah.
There's also decks that don't even accelerate energy from hand. There's things like Vikavolt, also Volcanion, for example. So there's all sorts of ways to get around this ability as well. That's why I don't think this card is great. I don't think it's bad. So I would say maybe keep an eye out on this one. Seems okay, just nothing mind-blowing, though.
Yeah. Alright, so next up we've got Chimecho, which is a basic Psychic-type Pokemon with 70 HP, and its attack, Silent Bell, for 1 Psychic Energy, you can do 10 damage, and then during your opponent's next turn, your opponent can't play any Pokemon with abilities from their hand. So, it's kind of interesting. It prevents people from, like, putting down a lot of Pokemon now that I think about it, like Zoroark GX, Gardevoir GX, that Gengar we just talked about. Like, so many Pokemon have abilities, so that could actually be pretty disruptive now that I think about it. I don't know, I think in Psychic decks this would at least be like a one-of or something like that.
Yeah, it seems pretty decent. It would definitely just be a tech. I don't see this being its own deck or anything like that.
For sure.
But I mean, like Marcus said, Zoroark GX, Gardevoir GX, both very popular Pokemon. But let's look at the entire metagame and go through a lot of the Pokemon with abilities. We have Gardevoir, Zoroark, you have Metagross, you have Volcanion, you have Vikavolt. I mean, there's just a ton of things that have abilities. Tapu Lele GX, I mean, the most common Pokemon in every deck at this point. So I think actually if you time a Chime Echo, at the right time, it can actually really be pretty bad from your opponent. I mean, granted, you would have to definitely time this at the right time, because if your opponent already has a way to just easily deal with this, the disruption from the attack really isn't much. So I think you would have to definitely time when you play down this card, but especially maybe even in like Drampa Garb decks, since they already play Psychic Energy, this could potentially be a one of. Especially at the time of filming, Potown looks to be played in very heavy counts right now in Drampa Garb. So that combined with Chime Echo could be kind of annoying. So like even if they are able to get around this card and evolve into their stage 2s and all that stuff, they are going to take some damage in the process. So I don't know, man. I don't know what deck I immediately just definitely want to play this in, but I feel like I will want to play this at some point. So
yeah,
I don't know. I'll say it's good.
Yeah, I think it's good too. It's definitely. I feel like that's got to be good somehow. Like it's gonna work somehow. Like I don't think it'll be something like you said. Like you won't build a deck around Chime Echo, but this will definitely be a tech in like decks that run like Psychic Energy, or a way to be able to attack with Psychic like Rainbow or something like that. Yeah, it's definitely super interesting for sure.
So next up we have Gourgeist. It's a 120 hit point stage 1, and we're looking at for its second attack, Pumpkin Bomb. For a DCE, it does 10 plus 40 more for every Pokemon tool that you discard with this attack. So basically you can discard any of your tool cards that you have in play to fuel up the damage for this attack. So that's kind of neat, because if you have, let's just say, 5 Pokemon tool cards in play, you're going to be doing, what is that, 5 times 4, 200 plus the 10 base, so 210 damage with this attack, 250 if you have a tool card on all of your Pokemon, for example. So this definitely seems interesting. This might be one of those like gimmicky types of cards, but I remember even thinking back to the old Tool Drop Trubbish back in the day. I think that deck was like kind of a meme at some point. People didn't really take it seriously, but Tool Drop eventually ended up becoming kind of a decent deck, and it had kind of a gimmicky attack like this that revolved around tool cards. So I don't know, it seems kind of cool. You can throw like 4 Choice Band in your deck, 4 Floatstone, or really just any decent tool cards in the current format. Bursting Balloons.
Yeah.
Which, well, that's actually pretty pointless, actually. But, any tools, it doesn't really matter too much. But you can play Eco Arm, since that is still in format, to recover your tool cards as well. So, I don't know. Gourgeist could be a fun little card to play with. I feel like you would need a decent backup attacker, though, because I feel like you're just going to run out of tool cards to discard in the late game. I don't know, man. That seems like my biggest concern. You're just going to run out of stuff to discard eventually.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like you'll be swinging hard, the first half of the game, but then you'll just eventually need like another attacker to fall back to once you're all out of your tools, and your Eco Arms to recycle those tools and whatnot. So. It seems like it'll be a neat deck, like a fun deck to play, but I don't know how competitive it'll be. I mean, it'll probably see competitive play, I think. It has to have some sort of like another attacker to fall back on once you're out of tools to discard with the attack.
I guess one thing that's worth mentioning too, it is just a DCE, so that kind of does allow you a decent amount of options to pair with it. I mean, there's Zoroark GX, which, I mean, is a nice little backup attacker. Tapu Lele GX is a solid backup attacker. So you could just play just these like consistency boosting cards and use them as like your, like your fallback attackers. There's also Drampa GX, Tauros GX, bunch of options to potentially pair with this card. So I'm not sure the best partner for it, but it definitely seems like a neat card. I'm a little afraid to commit to saying that this card is definitely good. I'll say keep an eye out for it. It might do something in the future.
So next up, we've got a new Salazzle. This one's a Psychic type with 110 HP. It's both of its attacks are 1 Psychic Energy. Its first one, Nasty Plot. Search your deck for 2 cards and then put them into your hand. Then shuffle your deck afterwards. And then the second attack, Severe Poison. Your opponent's active Pokemon is now poisoned. Put 4 damage counters instead of 1 on that Pokemon between turns. So Yeah, I mean, it seems solid. Like, search your deck for any two cards you want. I mean, it is your attack for the turn, but in the early game when you're still setting things up, that's not too bad. And then, severe poison is definitely interesting. Um, yeah, like 4 damage counters instead of one. I mean, it seems neat. I just don't know how solid that is, though. Like, I don't know if that's like really that solid of a thing.
Yeah, like I definitely like this card. It has very low attack cost, meaning that frees up a lot of space in your deck. You don't have to run a ton of energy. The HP and retreat costs, all that stuff's pretty standard. But I like the fact that it doesn't take up a whole lot of deck space.
Yeah.
If you're ever drawing dead, you can always just search out, like a Sycamore or something with Nasty Plot. But there are some potential partners for it. There is Seviper,
Okay.
to increase your poison damage even further. So
Yeah.
if you get out a couple of those, maybe let's just say 2, you can make your opponent take 6 every turn instead of 4. So that's kind of decent. But then there's also a new stadium card in the set that we're going to get to later, which will ensure that your status conditions remain in play as well. So I think that's an option too. So I think it has a couple of potential partners, but I'm just a little worried that it might not hit quite hard enough to really be
Yeah.
its own like top tier competitive deck.
That's my really only issue with it is that it doesn't hit hard enough. It doesn't do enough damage. Even with the Sevipers, if you have 2 down, it's 60 and then coming back to you like 120, 180 going back to them, and then by then they have to have retreated or something, I don't know, or knocked out, 2 of your Salazzles. It doesn't seem like it doesn't hit hard enough for me to like want to play this card, but it definitely seems interesting. I just don't know how good it is.
Yeah, I would say maybe if there's maybe similarly in the case of like Gorgeist, which kind of needs a cleanup attacker. I feel like Salazzle's kind of the same way. It has like a pretty strong early game attack, but I feel like towards the mid to late game, once your opponent is set up, it's hard to just do 4 damage counters or 8 if they just attack and it comes back to you. When your opponent is playing things like Gardevoir or Metagross or things that hit for 100, 200 damage, this attack is definitely just a little bit more mediocre. So I think it needs some sort of partner. I don't know if one actually exists at the time of filming. But I will say, I think you should keep an eye out on this card. It's definitely a card I want to try out. If nothing else, maybe we can make a little fun deck on PTCGO or something at some point. But I like the card, but I don't think it's quite there yet. I would say keep an eye out on it, though. What do you think, Marcus?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, I don't really like it as much as you do. Not that you like it a whole lot or anything, but like, it seems like it'll be fun. I don't think it'll be good. Yeah.
Fair enough. All right, so next up we have, I think, what is going to be one of the most sought-after cards from this set once it releases. That is going to be Buzzwole GX. This is the first Ultra Beast that we're going to be taking a look at. So it's 190 hit point basic, and the card is noted that is an Ultra Beast, but at the time of filming, there's no particular gameplay mechanic tied to it being an Ultra Beast or anything. So the card is still just played like normal. But its first attack is going to be Jet Punch for a fighting energy, does 30 damage, and does 30 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Its second attack, Knuckle Impact for 3 fighting, does 160, and this Pokemon can't attack on your next turn. And then its GX move, Energy Absorption GX for 3 fighting energy, does 40 for each of your remaining prize cards. So I gotta say, I am a pretty decent fan of this card. Mainly for Jet Punch, though. Not that its other attacks aren't solid or anything, but Jet Punch is definitely, I think, what I'm most interested in. So,
Yeah.
if you guys have been playing for a few years, this actually might look very familiar to the old Landorus EX back from Boundaries Crossed. Literally the exact same attack, and that card was definitely one of the best cards in the game when it released. And that was even in a format where there wasn't a whole lot of evolutions outside of 1 or 2 decks. So the fact that this same attack is being printed in a format where there's so many evolving basics, you have Ralts, you have Beldums, Alolan Vulpix, Rowlet, etc. So Jet Punch is very, very good against these decks that are reliant on, evolving up into their stage ones and stage twos. So yeah, this is just such an aggressive attack, especially if you have a strong energy, you're doing 50 to the active and 30 to a bench Pokemon. If you have a Fury Belt, you're doing, and a strong energy, you're doing 60 and 30. Or if you have a Choice Band, you're doing 70 and 30. That seems pretty solid to me, I've got to say.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the one I was more interested in as well. I'm stoked to see how this one plays out. I think it'd be neat to. I don't know how good it would be with bats and expanded, but it would be neat to like relive like the Landy Bats days, but with Jet Punch instead, maybe. But yeah, no, I definitely like this a lot, especially because there are, like you said, a lot of decks where they have a lower HP basic Pokemon, and then they need to like evolve into their bigger attackers like Decidueye and Gardevoir and whatnot. So yeah, definitely seems really solid for sure.
Yeah, and so yeah, like we were saying, the first attack very strong, but I don't know about you, Marcus, but I'm having trouble figuring out how I want to play this when I'm looking at the second and third attacks, because they have 3 fighting energy. That's not an easy attack cost to fulfill. So
Yeah.
so that makes me think, well, do you play Max Elixirs with this guy? And so that's an option. There's the new Savali GX, which we will talk about later in this review as well, which is going to be, I think, a potential partner.
Yeah.
But then the other thing that's got me thinking is the second attack, Absorption GX. Very, very strong GX attack. If you have all 6 prize cards remaining, you're doing 240, which is great. It's basically a guaranteed knockout. But in the early game, you want to use Jet Punch to start setting up knockouts on these low HP basics. You really want to be putting pressure on with that attack. So I'm very confused on the direction they like you should be playing this card, because again, if you're going for an aggressive early Absorption GX, then you're not really putting on pressure with Jet Punch.
Yeah.
So that's like, I feel like the card design kind of conflicts with itself a little bit.
Right.
But I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I still think this card seems really good, though.
Yeah, yeah. I think it seems solid. I agree with everything you said too. And then like, I don't know, like if I had to build a list for this thingy right now, it would definitely be something like, since he's a basic, with like only fighting attack cost, it'd be something with like Max Elixirs. But that's the only way I could think right now to like play it.
Yeah, I mean, you could maybe play like Lycanroc with it, just for like like the GX one with Bloodthirsty Eyes, for some really aggressive early game pressure.
Yeah.
Being able to like basically catcher up things and snipe the 30 wherever you want and stuff like that.
Right.
So that seems like an option. Another option I think is with Garbodor, actually. Just because I actually think Mr. Mime might become a popular tech in a lot of these evolution-based decks.
Yeah.
Once the Sky releases, to prevent this bench damage. So to have a better chance against those types of decks, I think you might see people play Garbodor or something like Alolan Muck or something like that to combat against Mr. Mime shutting off bench damage.
Yeah.
So I think you will need a way to deal with that, because this is just an easy card to tech against. So that's an option too. So I don't know, man. It's just a good card. The downside of it is weak to Psychic, which means Garbodor can just kind of make quick work of this guy in the late game. But I just think this card is super good, though.
Yeah, yeah, no, I think it's pretty solid too. All right, so next up we've got Registeel. It is a metal basic Pokemon with 130 HP. Its first attack, for 1 metal energy, Turbo Arm, it does 30 damage, and then you attach a basic energy from your discard pile to one of your benched Pokemon. So it's kind of interesting. It lets you attach, I guess, any basic energy. It doesn't have to be metal, but I don't know how powerful that is. And then there's Black Steel Fist, 90 damage. If Regice is on your bench, then heal 30 damage from this Pokemon. It's for 2 metal and a colorless. So the Turbo Arm kind of reminds me of like Baby Yveltal, but it doesn't have to be a dark energy. You can just do any of them, or any kind of energy. But yeah, I mean, this guy seems okay. I don't know how much I like it or how great it'll be or anything. 90, swing twice with it, you do 180.
I will say this: with a choice band, you do knock out Gardevoir
Yeah.
GX in one hit. So
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Um,
and it does say. Well, we should also give some context too. It says if Regice is on your bench, heal 30. All of the Regis are actually in the set, and we'll get to each of them. But they all have synergy with each other. So that's one thing we'll have to keep in mind as we're going through the set review. As we talk about each of them, they all kind of have some synergy together. But for Registeel in particular, I'm not sure if this is like in its own type of like metal deck, or
Right.
if it's just your energy acceleration for the Regi deck that Pokemon is trying to like kind of push with this set, it looks like.
yeah.
But I gotta say, since Gardevoir is debatably the best deck, or one of the best decks in format at the time of filming, having a solid metal attacker is definitely not a bad thing. I don't.
Yeah, yeah.
So, one energy for 30, 60 if you have a choice band. This attack has been good in the past with Yveltal, like Marcus mentioned. We also have the new Raikou that came out, Shining Legends.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think the attack is solid. I just don't know what partner you'd play with, because if I'm thinking like as far as metal Pokemon goes, one that comes to mind is Solgaleo GX, but the problem with that is that you're only accelerating one energy. It needs to be two in order to really be worth anything.
Yeah.
Otherwise, your Solgaleo can't attack for 2 turns. So I don't really like it in that style of deck. So I'm not sure. There might be some other metal Pokemon we could potentially pair with it, for all I know. But maybe
Yeah.
you could play like, I don't know, man.
Yeah, I can't really think of much either
Well,
to pair it with, other than
say-
the Reggie deck. Like you said, they like want you to make a Reggie deck, but like,
you could play this with like Zoroark GX maybe, since Zoroark, you discard cards from your hand to draw cards. You can accelerate them out of the discard. And then you can always swing on a Gardevoir for like 1,000,000 damage with the second
Yeah.
attack if you choose to. So, and Zoroark could be like your backup attacker. That's something I feel like
yeah,
maybe could happen. One thing that we've seen in the past, like Burning Shadows format, a deck that popped up a little bit at some cups was like Drampa Zoroark with Scizor. So maybe you could do something like that, but instead of playing Scizor EX, you play this guy, since he accelerates energy and he can still one-shot a Gardevoir if he has a choice band. So maybe you can do something like that. Seems okay. Again, I'm struggling just without doing any testing yet. I don't know where this card falls into, but I would honestly say this card is good. I like it, man. What do you think?
yeah. No, I mean, it definitely seems solid. Since like you said, with a choice band, it can like one shot the Gardevoir or whatever, or I mean, yeah, the Guardi GX, and then I mean, even the first attack, like with the choice band, you're still like two-shotting Guardi GX, like setting up in the beginning of the game and stuff. So it seems solid. Again, not sure what to pair it with. Honestly, other than that, like the Zoroark thing, like you said, or the Reggie deck that they want me to make. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it seems decent for sure.
That they want you to make.
Yeah.
They sent you a letter.
They were like, "Hey, man, we want you to make this. We're gonna put all these Reggies together, and they're gonna do some stuff, and it's gonna be really bad, but it's gonna have some gimmicky synergy. So we want you to make it."
Fair enough. So next up we have yet another, I think, good card that has come out of the set. There hasn't been too many of those so far, but this is one of them, I think. So we have Kartana GX, another one of these new Ultra Beast Pokemon. 170 hit point, basic, and it has this ability cut down. Whenever you play this from your hand to your bench, you may discard a special energy attached to one of your opponent's Pokemon. Its attack Gale Sword for a metal and DCE to 70, and shuffle this card and all cards attached to it back into your deck. And then it has a GX move called Blade GX for one single metal energy. Take one prize card. I gotta say, this card is kind of cool. I actually really like this. So the first one I just want to talk about is Blade GX. Like, that's just immediately catches my attention. Just draw a prize. Like,
Yeah.
that's so dumb.
Take
for
a prize
one
card.
Metal. And Oh my god, like that attack is so good. Yes, it doesn't change like if you have like a terrible board state.
Yeah.
It doesn't really change that. It doesn't affect your opponent's board state by knocking something out. But just taking one prize card is pretty solid, I think.
Yeah,
I really
and
do
for
enjoy
just
that.
one energy too.
Yeah. And so it's a metal energy, so that means you can play it in maybe your bad Reggie deck you're talking about.
Yeah.
You could play this potentially in Drampa Garb, since they play a rainbow energy a lot of the times, or really any deck that plays a rainbow energy. Glisopod Garb is another one. Solgaleo GX. So I think this card definitely has decks it could pop into just for the GX attack alone. But I do think its ability is also pretty solid as well. Just playing it from your hand to discard a special energy, basically an E-Hammer that you can Ultra Ball for. Like, bro, that's solid.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
Gale Sword is kind of whatever.
Yeah.
I really don't feel any type of way about it.
Right. It doesn't seem like great, really.
Yeah,
honestly.
I mean, it's nice they let you put it back into your deck, and like that way you can reuse it potentially. Like,
Yeah.
I see what they're trying to do. That way you can get use of the ability multiple times.
Right.
But yeah, I think I'm mainly interested in this for the ability and for Blade GX.
Yeah, that definitely is, the more interesting part of it. Blade GX that's wild. That's pretty cool. I do want to note that this Pokemon is very ugly.
Oh, it's an Ultra Beast. All of them look absolutely terrible.
What is it even supposed to look like?
Blades. Like, it's supposed to be like based off of a katana, like hence the name Kartana.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like I feel like they over at Pokemon HQ when they were making Sun and Moon, they were like, how do we make the absolute worst looking Pokemon?
Yeah.
And that's how all the Ultra Beasts were created, because they all look absolutely terrible, I think.
Oh, man.
So, hope we don't get too many dislikes for that, but the Ultra Beasts are really horrendous.
Yeah, yeah. This one might... I mean, I haven't seen them all. I haven't gotten through this game. I didn't even know this dude existed until just now. But, yeah, he's ugly.
Yeah, luckily he's decent. That's like the one thing he's got going.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
got a good personality.
Yeah, at least he's got a good personality.
Yeah. But yeah, another deck I only know how we didn't mention is Metagross GX.
Oh, yeah.
Like the deck that plays all metal energy,
Right.
basically. So, yeah, man, I like the card. Even in like expanded format, you have things like Mega Ray, for example. It's a decent bench sitter for things like that. Just throw down this guy on the bench to sit there and take off energy. So, I mean, I think it's a good one of that you'll probably see pop up.
Yeah.
So, again, I don't know the deck that it's like dying to be in particular, but there's just a lot of things that can abuse it if they choose to. So,
Right.
I would say expect to see it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So, next up, we've got Regigigas, basic 180 HP colorless Pokemon. Its ability, Ancient Seal. If you don't have Regirock, Registeel, and Regice in play, this Pokemon can't even attack. And then, whenever you do get all of the Regis in play, once you finally attach 5 energy, you can giant stomp for 160, and then discard a stadium card in play. So, the attack, 160, 190 with a choice band. 5 energy. I don't. It's not good. It's
Well,
not.
I'm gonna let you go through why it's bad. I'll try to sell you afterwards. But
It costs too much to attack. If I wanted to do 190, I'd play Lapras.
but that's only 3 energy. Why would you play 3 energy when you could play 5?
You're right. That's a bigger number. But no, like it just seems this is just bad. I don't like it. I mean,
Alright.
it's a 1 prize attacker, and that's what it's got 100. It's a 1 prize attacker with 180 HP.
Dude, that's
Is
what I was
good.
about to say.
Yeah, that's really good, but it's got a 5 attack cost, a 4 retreat cost, and you can't even use him unless you've got all his friends in play. like, like he literally does not do anything unless all his friends are there.
Dude, 180 hit points is nuts.
That is
Like-
nuts for a 1 prize attacker for
Like,
sure.
Think back, Regigigas EX from Next Destinies was 180 hit points, and back then I was like, man, he's pretty fat, man. 180 hit points, that's big.
Yeah, But at the same time, what Gardevoir puts one energy down and then just kills you? Like,
I mean, that's not a good deck or anything. Like,
I don't know about that, man. I don't know about this deck.
well, hold on. Okay, so you bring up Gardevoir. You have Registeel though.
Yeah, you've
So-
got Registeel.
And okay, so one thing that's good about like this Reggie deck is you have like basically 4 different typed Reggies that you can abuse, and so you can kind of cater your strategy to whatever deck in the meta you're going up against. So I think it's kind of meant to be like a 4 corners or 6 corner style deck
Yeah.
where you kind of choose the route you want to go based on the matchup.
Uh-huh.
So if you're playing against Gardevoir, you just go like aggro Registeel and just like
Yeah.
bop all of their Guardies with a 1 prize attacker.
Right.
So I think that's the route you'd want to go. There's also a Regice that has an ability that prevents against stage 2s that we'll get to, which...
That definitely seems interesting.
So, we'll get to these other components of the Reggie deck as we go through the set. But, Regigigas as the main attacker,
Nah.
yeah, I'm not sold
And
on
that's
that.
the thing, he's colorless, so there's not even anything weak to him, so you don't even want to like be like, oh, well, there's a scenario where I'll use Regigigas.
Well, I think the thing is, like, the other Reggies, they have, like, solid little two-shotting attacks, and
Yeah.
I think Regigigas is meant to be, like, your late-game, like, sweeper that you have, while you're busy, softening things up with
Yeah.
your other Reggies. Once you go through the whole game to miraculously get 5 energy without this thing getting knocked out,
Yeah.
you come in swinging. I think that's the general idea. And, okay, so you have Registeel, which we just mentioned. That can actually accelerate energy, so while you're, building up Regigigas, you're still attacking with Registeel to get energy in play and damage.
Right.
So when I'm looking at this Reggie deck thing, I'm looking at Registeel as kind of like the Reggie you're playing the highest count of. That's like your early game attacker and the way you get energy in play.
Yeah.
All of the Reggies are basic, so that means you can abuse Max Elixir. And you're probably going to be losing if you're playing these Reggie decks. So there is a new energy in the set, which will help if you are losing in the game. So that is perfect for this archetype, I think.
Oh man.
So I don't know. We say this now, like maybe it'll be a good deck. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think this isn't your main attacker in the Reggie deck. So that's the thing we have to you have to get out of your mind, I think.
Yeah.
So but yeah, the ability definitely not good, but you can play Garbodor.
Yeah.
A
And then still need 5 energy to
or
run
a
60.
Alolan Muck.
Yeah.
Maybe. So yeah, Regigigas I think is really only as good as the other Reggies that we have, and like the quality of this Reggie deck, basically.
Yeah.
So for that reason, I'm actually gonna say keep an eye out on this. I actually don't think this card is bad. I think it's really, I think its viability is very, very conditional though.
Yeah.
So that's why I would say keep an eye out for it, Marcus. You still gonna slap this with the old bad rating?
I'm gonna still slap it with a bad because its viability is very conditional. Like, you ain't never gonna attack with them. Like, just play the other Reggies and don't invite Regigigas. Like, I don't know. I just personally don't see when it'll be good, but keep an eye out just in case.
Dude, Regigigas, he's like that friend like in your squad. Like you're all trying to make plans together. Like y'all all want to go see like this movie or like go to this restaurant.
Yeah.
And you're like, man, let's go to Taco Bell. He's like, man, I don't like Mexican food. So y'all are trying to stay together because y'all are like a squad and y'all had plans. But
Yeah.
eventually, if you don't like Mexican food and y'all hungry, you're going to Taco Bell and he ain't coming. So
Yeah.
maybe you're right. Maybe you just kick him out and just play with the other Reggies. I don't know.
That's what I'm saying.
But every once in a while, man, he might be like, yo, man,
he might be.
I want some Taco Bell, and he'll come hang out.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how Regigigas is.
Heard they got the Diablo sauce back. I'll be there.
Yeah.
I might make it. I might make a trip with you
Yeah,
guys.
Taco Bell, where's our YouTube money, man? We gave you that shout out.
Yeah.
So that's Regigigas. Like I said, definitely an interesting card, if nothing else. So next up we have Cinccino, and I'm just going to get this out of the way. I'm not sure if I even think this card is good, but it has kind of a cool attack, so that's the only reason I really wanted to bring it up for the set review. So it has this attack huge request for a colorless energy. Choose 2 cards from your discard pile, show them to your opponent, and ask your opponent if you may put them into your hand. if it would please the crown, put the cards in your hand. If they don't want you to have those cards, you return those cards to your discard pile and do 80 damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. So that is Cinccino. That's its only attack.
Mm-hmm.
I think, like I said, I don't even think this card is probably good.
Yeah.
But get any 2 cards from your discard pile is solid as a nice little recovery attack. But it's a stage 1. I think, honestly, if this was a basic, I would actually probably say this is a good card.
Yeah, for sure.
But the fact that it is a stage 1, I think, makes it much less viable.
Absolutely.
What do you think about this whole effect that it has, though?
I think it's fun. I think it's definitely fun. I don't think it's good, but I definitely think it's fun to be like, hey, can I have these 2 cards? No? Okay, we'll take 80. Or like, hey, can I have these 2 cards? I don't want to take 80, so yeah, take them. Like, I don't know, it seems fun, but...
Definitely.
Especially because it's a stage 1, it's not good.
Yeah.
Like, if it was a basic, it might actually be pretty cool, but... It's just not.
Maybe if there's like another Cinccino that comes out that is playable, this could be like a one of as like just like a tech or something. But
right.
I'll probably say this card is bad, unfortunately. But
yeah.
I really wish it was a basic, because otherwise I would really enjoy actually playing this in a tournament setting. It'd be hilarious.
Yeah. No, for sure. So next up, we've got Silvally GX. It is a colorless GX with 210 HP. It's a stage 1 that evolves from Null. Its ability is Gyro Unit. As long as this Pokemon is in play, all of your basic Pokemon have 0 retreat cost. So that's definitely a really good ability, I think. And then its attacks, the first one for 3 colorless, Turbo Drive, 120 damage. Attach a basic energy card from your discard pile to one of your bench Pokemon. And then Rebellion GX, 50 damage. This does 50 times the number of your opponent's benched Pokemon. So isn't that same GX move on like that Lycanroc? I mean, maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So they've got the same. This GX isn't like new, but it's definitely a good GX move still, I think.
Definitely. If they're gonna reprint one, it's not a bad one to reuse. You
know? Yeah. Turbo Drive. It's. This is almost is. It's just I like this card because it reminds me of Mega Manectric, and Mega Manectric's like one of my favorite, if not potentially my favorite, like Pokemon card in the Pokemon trading card game, because it's just so fun to play. Like I played it and it was so fun. But it's 3 energy. Luckily they're colorless, but it's 3 energy. It does 120 and then you only attach 1 basic. So I think it's still good. I hope it's not just me wanting it to be good because of it reminding me of Mega Manectric, but I think it's good, or at least interesting and stuff. I mean, you 2-shot basically everything with it in the game. It accelerates in energy, and its ability is really good too. Like it lets all of your basic Pokemon have no retreat cost. So I like this guy a lot.
Yeah, man. I think this is actually one of the best cards to come out of the set, personally. Thinking about this like it's Mega Manectric. So Mega Manectric saw play as kind of its own deck with just Manectric and very little other text. But then there's other variants that have come out that have been, I think, a little bit more popular, where you played Mega Manectric and then like other additional water and lightning attackers like Regice and Articuno.
Yeah.
And that was when you had to play lightning and water energy in the same deck. So you had inconsistent amounts of energy.
Right.
And, having to have lightning energy kind of limited, I think, some of your options as far as like partners to play with it. But because Silvally is, a colorless type, I think that really gives you more freedom than what you had with Manectric. It makes the, like, who you want to pair with this a lot more flexible, which I really like. And also in the case of Mega Manectric, for example, a lot of the attackers in the past, like Regice, for example, had heavy retreat costs.
Yeah.
And you'd have to play additional switching cards to make up for that. Whereas Silvally doesn't really need any of that because it has that great ability.
Yeah.
And then its GX move is really nice as well. Just punish your opponent from filling up their bench, which pretty much every deck in this format does.
Yeah.
So, and one thing I actually really love about the attack is that it does hit for 120 damage. So, like Marcus says, that will basically 2-shot everything in the format.
Yeah.
You can add a choice band to do a little bit more, but I'm really happy that you don't need choice band because there are some tools in the set, which we'll cover in just a second, that actually give Savali GX new typing. So that is one thing to keep in mind as well. You can basically make this whatever type Savali G. Basically, like imagine if you wanted to make your Mega Manetrix like Psychic type, for example.
Right.
Savali will be able to do that, and I just think this is such a versatile card. I don't have like a deck in mind that I'm going to build with this right away, just because it is such a flexible card. But my knee-jerk reaction is maybe to pair this actually with the Ultra Beasts, because a lot of them have pretty terrible retreat costs, and they are basic, so you can accelerate energy to them. But maybe this is a good time to maybe go through some of the card pool and look back at some of the old basic EXs and GXs that haven't seen much play because of their attack costs. Savali might finally breathe some new life into some old cards.
Yeah.
But overall, I just think it's a super solid card. It's not one of those cards that you see and you're just like, oh my god, why did they print this? This is so broken. But it's just everything about this card is just really solid, I think.
Yeah. No, I definitely think this is like a really good card. It's definitely going to see play in competitive decks or whatever, standard and expanded, I'm sure.
Definitely be on the lookout for this guy. Alright, so next up we have the trainer cards from the Awoken Hero part of the set. It's going to be, the first one we're going to look at is going to be Counter Catcher. So you can only play this card if you have more prize cards remaining than your opponent, but you get to choose one of your opponent's bench Pokemon and switch it with their active Pokemon. So it's a new like Lysander, Gust of Wind, Pokemon Catcher style card, and we've seen a couple be printed ever since the Pokemon Catcher Errata, which is now a coin flip. They made Mega Catcher, whatever it was, which saw no play. They made Repel, which hasn't seen any play. So they've been like dipping their toes in the water, trying to make these like item-based, like catcher effect cards. And none of them have really stuck, but I think this is going to be the first one that they've tried in a while that will actually see play. This is actually a reprint of an old card from like the old EX era. I believe it was POW Hand Extension. It was one of the Team Rocket cards, I remember that. But I think that was the one. But yeah, and that card saw play back in its time, so that's why I'm thinking Counter Catcher will see play as well. But yeah, so you can only use it if you're down on prizes, which is actually pretty good. That makes slower decks, I think, a little bit more viable. So stuff like Greninja, I think, will really enjoy this card. Since they typically play from behind, they normally go down prize cards first. So you can play this. That way you don't have to abuse, a Guzma as your supporter for turn. You can play Counter Catcher and then still Sycamore or N or something else for the turn too. So, if you ever played back before Pokemon Catcher got its errata to a coin flip when you could just play it from your hand without a flip, you will definitely know how powerful that effect was to be able to do that and still play an additional supporter for turn. So I think this card is good. Again, I'm thinking Greninja, maybe Decidueye, really just any slower deck in the format would, I think, benefit from this. Sorry, I kind of went on there for a minute, Marcus. What do you think, though?
You're good. I mean, that's pretty much it. Like, I remember when I first read this card earlier today, I was like, I thought back of all the other like cards that they printed since the Catcher errata, like the Mega Catcher and Repel and stuff like that, and I was basically like, this one finally might be the one that gets played. I think this is definitely the best, I think, of the item like catcher effect cards since the Catcher errata. So yeah, this one will definitely see play for sure, especially like you said in stuff like Greninja, I think.
Now, I think the only thing going against this card is that, okay, so like I said, this is basically a reprint of an older card, but in that format they did not have Guzma or Lysander. So their switching effect options were a little bit more limited. So that is the one, disclaimer. So I'm not sure, again, what decks in particular are going to play this other than maybe Greninja and the really, really slow decks in the format. Maybe like spread decks I could see, like decks that just aim to like spread a bunch of damage and de-evolve stuff. Maybe like a heavy Tapu Koko focus deck or Necrozma, stuff like that could benefit from this. But this is one I am on the fence about. I will say keep an eye out for this card. I'm leaning towards saying it's good, but like I said, Guzma might just be better. It doesn't add, to Garbodor's item count in your discard pile. So that's why I'm gonna be a little bit cautious and say keep an eye out on it. But I think this might see play though. Mm-hmm. What do you think, Marcus?
I'm gonna agree. I think Guzma is definitely still better, but I think it might see play. Definitely keep an eye out for it. So next up, we have Peeping Red card. Look at your opponent's hand. You may have your opponent count the number of cards in their hand and then shuffle their hand back into their deck and then draw that many cards. So, I mean, I guess it's kind of like you can take a look at their hand, and then if you think that it is a good hand, you can be like, nah, shuffle that back in and get some new ones because that hand's too good, and then it'll maybe disrupt them. I don't know if this will be great. I think it'll definitely see play in some sort of like a fun deck or whatever. Yeah, so I think it's definitely an interesting card. I don't know how great it'll be, but I think it'll be in some fun decks or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I could maybe see this in maybe like a disruption style deck, like a Sylveon type of thing. Like if you have like a lock deck or something like that in particular, like disruption or lock, you can look at your opponent's hand, see if they're going to have a way to counter your lock. And if so, you can make them get a different hand. But I don't know, N just might be better. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just not I'm not a huge fan of this card. Like it's not the effect really isn't bad necessarily. I think a lot of times I'd maybe just rather play a red card, but I'm not sure, man. I'm torn.
Yeah.
Like, the effects are really not bad, but I just don't think it's good enough for me to actually want to play in a Dex. So, I'm probably going to say it's bad. Like, not, like, horrible or anything. I just don't think it's good enough to be in a deck.
Yeah. I'm going to agree with that. Like, it's neat that you get to look at their hand and stuff, but I just feel like red card's better because you put them down to 4. Where, like, if they've got, like, 7 cards in their hand or something, and I make them shuffle that back in, odds are they get another good hand, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think red card's a little bit like more universally solid. I'd rather just put them at a lower hand size.
Right.
But I don't know. Who knows? We might be wrong about this one.
Mm-hmm.
So next up, we have some new tool cards that are going to be exclusively for the new Savali GX that we just talked about. So we have Psychic Memory and Fighting Memory. They haven't announced some other types as well, but right now in Crimson Invasion, these are the first 2 that we are going to get. So basically, they're tool cards. If it's attached to Savali GX, that Pokemon is now Psychic type or Fighting type, respectively, depending on which tool you have attached. So this is, I think, pretty awesome because Savali is a colorless attacker, and you can kind of pick the tool card that you want based on the matchup. So, for example, Savali is weak to Fighting, which means Buzzwole GX will be able to hit it for weakness. Well, Buzzwole is weak to Psychic, so you could maybe play a couple of Psychic Memory in order to combat that and have a shot against the Buzzwole decks that are running around. Similarly, if there's a bunch of Fighting weak stuff running around, you could play Fighting Memory to attach to your Savali GX and, go that route instead. So, pretty straightforward cards, but, I think they're good. Like I said earlier, Savali GX doesn't need Choice Band in order to be an efficient attacker, so that kind of frees you up as far as what tool cards you want to run in your deck anyway. So, I don't know, man. I don't think there's much to say about them, but I think it's good.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I definitely think it's neat to be able to make Savali a different type. Making it to where other types are weak to it and stuff. It definitely seems neat to me too. I like it. I'm stoked for Savali.
Yeah, and we'll have to keep an eye out on these as, the meta develops and as more of these come out, because right now, when Crimson Invasion releases, only 2 will be available, but they will be adding other types as well. So hopefully they add every type to the mix at some point.
So next up, we've got Gladion. It's a supporter card. Look at your face-down prize cards, choose one of them, and switch it with this Gladion. Put the card you chose in your hand. then shuffle Gladion and the prize cards you looked at and return them face down as prize cards. So definitely seems interesting. I don't know how solid that's going to be. I don't think it's going to be good. It's definitely weird. I don't know. You could get something good out of your prize cards. Like if you know something is prize that you like need, then you could like, all right, I'm gonna switch this like really bad supporter with it, and then get what I need out of it, and then shuffle my prizes afterwards. Like that's kind of cool, but I don't know how great that'll be in lots of decks. I guess there's like in specific decks where it's like the type of decks that play town map and stuff already. Maybe those will kind of.
It says look at your face down. Prize
Yeah,
cards.
that's what I mean. Like, so maybe like the decks that play town map switch it with this to be able to get it out. Like
Oh, I see what you're
instead of just being able to see what's there the whole time. Like maybe they're like, oh, well, I need it now, like type of decks or whatever. But I'm not sure. It just doesn't seem. It definitely seems neat. It's weird, but I don't know how good it'll be.
I actually like this card a lot more, to be honest.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how many games have we been there where it's just like, oh man, like I'm going against my bad matchup and my tech that I need to beat this deck is prized.
Yeah.
Ugh. And you know, on the initial search of the game, when you do your first Tapu Lele or Bridget, whatever it is, and you search your deck, you can see what is in your deck and what isn't. So you should, in theory, know exactly what you have prized, and
Right.
that's something that's a good habit to get into if you're not already doing that as well. So if you're not doing that, try doing that, especially once this card comes out, because if you know what's in your prizes, one thing you can actually do is, let's say you have something like a DCE in your prizes. You can Ultra Ball for a Tapu Lele to grab Gladion, and then grab a DCE for turn. So in some ways, sometimes this card can act like a computer search
Yeah.
for, since you can get exactly what you want, out of your prize cards. So I actually really like this card, and especially in certain decks where they are reliant on, let's say in the case of like the Gyarados deck before,
Yeah.
you needed every magic card possible in order to hit for lots of amounts of damage. So something like Gladion would have been great in that type of deck, being able to just grab out exactly what you need. The fact that you actually get to look at your prizes and pick a specific card, I think really makes this good to me. If this was like switch it with one of your prizes without knowing, that seems like something Pokemon would honestly do. But the fact that you actually get to look at the prizes, I think makes this good.
Yeah.
And I like it. Again, if you're playing a deck like the old Gyarados deck, or even like Greninja, for example, or really any deck that plays Lele and is very reliant on very, very, very specific cards, I think you'd maybe play this Gladion. Another example of why this card can be good too is certain situations like, let's just say in the example of, I'm trying to think of a deck off the top of my head. I'm just going to say like Water Toolbox. They typically play 2 Manaphy EX to give them free retreat. A lot of times you don't really want 2 Manaphy. A lot of times they're pretty pointless. You really only need 1, but you play 2 because if you prize 1, oh wait, you're in a bad spot if you prize it. So you play inflated counts of certain cards because they are just so important that you can't afford to prize them.
Right.
I think Gladion gives you the luxury of being able to cut down on those types of cards that you just need 1 of,
Right.
but being able to search them out of your prizes if you have to.
Yeah.
In addition to being able to get out anything else out of your prizes. So, I don't know. I like this card. I think it'll be a one of in these types of decks that I'm just like outlining here.
Yeah, yeah. No, I definitely agree with you. It seems better to me now for sure.
And like you said, if they're one of those decks that are already playing town map, this probably is a card that you are playing in place of that. I would think, assuming you're playing Lele in your deck too.
Yeah.
So, especially, I don't know. I'm trying to think of any other. I can't think of any other like broken uses for it off the top of my head. But I mean, I don't know. I think it's good. What would you say, man? What's your final verdict?
I'll say it's good. Definitely keep an eye out for it.
So I sold you a little
bit.
bit.
Yeah, you did sell me. You did sell me on it a little bit. Yeah.
Cool.
Keep an eye out for it at the very least.
So next up, we are going on to the other half of Japan's SM4 set. It's going to be the Trans-Dimensional Beast part of the set from over there. And the first one that we're going to look at is going to be the new Beedrill line, but specifically starting with the new Kakuna that is coming out. So we have a new Kakuna, and why is that relevant? And it's actually for this attack, which might look pretty familiar. So 80 hit point, stage 1, grass type, yada yada, nothing too special, but it has this attack called Sprout for a grass energy. Search your deck for up to 3 Kakuna and put them onto your bench. Shuffle your deck afterward. So you probably recognize this from Greninja. Frogadier has that Water Duplicates attack that honestly makes what would otherwise be kind of a mediocre deck be pretty good. And so now we have a Kakuna with the same attack, and that might make one of the various Beedrill cards that we have actually decent.
Yeah.
So there is a new Beedrill, which we'll cover momentarily, but there is a Beedrill back in the Evolution set. But there is a Beedrill back in the Evolution set that has an attack that does 40 times the amount of Beedrill you have in play. So if you're playing that type of deck, Kakuna is going to be your new best friend, or really any Beedrill deck going forward, I think. But yeah, I mean, this attack is really only as good as the quality of Beedrills that we have, but definitely I think having this attack on Kakuna automatically makes whatever Beedrill your deck playing, or whatever Beedrill deck you're playing, that much better. So not too much to say about it, I don't think, but I would say this Kakuna, for a Kakuna, or for a Beedrill deck or whatever, is definitely good. I mean, Marcus, I don't know if you want to add anything to that. It's
Yeah, not much to add. I mean, it's just, yeah, it's super solid. I really like that someone other than Frogadier is getting this type of an attack. So, yeah, maybe it'll make, probably not this Beedrill, but one of the Beedrills that are already out maybe will be better with this Kakuna.
So speaking of Beedrills, though, we still do have the actual Beedrill that is coming out of Crimson Invasion. So we have a new one, Beedrill, 120 hit points, kind of low for a stage 2, but it does have free retreat, which is definitely great. But it has this attack called Sudden Stab for a grass energy, does 10 damage, and if this Pokemon evolved from Kakuna during your turn, your opponent's active Pokemon is now poisoned and paralyzed. So you can already kind of see the synergy that they're aiming for with the Kakuna from this set. But then it also has one other attack called Sharp Needle for a grass energy, does 60 damage. So, you know, I think this Beedrill, it's kind of neat. You know, paralyzed and poison is a decent effect. So they're guaranteed, you're basically guaranteed 20 damage, assuming your opponent doesn't Guzma up, or Guzma out of it the next turn. That would put them up to 30.
Yeah.
So the damage output on this thing is pitiful, though. Honestly, if this first attack was like 50 damage, I would be a lot more excited.
Right.
I just think 10 damage might be too low for this to be competitive. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's good at all. It's neat, but I don't think it's that great just because of how low the damage output is. Yeah, if I wanted to do poison and have like a low damage output, I'd play Salazzle. I don't know. I don't think it's good.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth noting you can put a choice band on it to do a 90 for 1 energy with its second attack.
Yeah.
Which is solid, but again, I'm not too excited for this Beedrill. If I'm going to play one, I think I might play just like a deck based around the Evolutions Beedrill. Maybe if you're going to play a deck like that, you play one of these just to buy yourself a turn to set up some more Beedrills with this first attack. You know, that way you can buy yourself a turn until your heavy-hitting Beedrill comes online. So maybe that's kind of what I would do, but I definitely don't see an entire deck based around this Beedrill, though. So for that reason, I'll say keep an eye out on it. It's definitely not one that I have high hopes for, but if some sort of Beedrill archetype does pop up, I think this would be like a one-of potentially in that type of deck. So for that reason, I'll say keep an eye out on it. What do you think, Marcus?
I guess maybe keep an eye on it. I'm still not super sold on it, but I don't know. Maybe it'll be interesting.
It's okay. You can say it's bad.
Yeah, it's bad.
Okay. Yeah, so that's Beedrill, guys. Like I said, kind of interesting if nothing else.
So next up, we've got Magikarp, just 30 HP again, like usual. But its ability is really cool this time. Submerge. If this Pokemon is on your bench, it can't be damaged by attacks. So I'm pretty positive all of the Gyarados decks, like the other Gyarados that makes it where you do damage based on how many damage counters are on your benched Magikarps. Pretty sure they all play this now. This Magikarp specifically now, just because you can't get messed up by spread damage from attacks. Abilities can still snipe them out, I think, like the Decidueye and everything, but Coco's won't be able to just like sweep your board in one attack. So
Yeah.
definitely gonna be good.
Yeah, it's actually a really good Magikarp. Like you said, it's weird that a Magikarp is like that exciting.
Yeah.
But Gyarados, the one that did recently rotate out of standard format, is still playable and expanded. I think Trevenant still gives it a hard time with that Silent Fear attack. But like Marcus said, you don't just instantly lose to any deck that plays one Tapu Koko, which a lot of decks do. So
Right.
yeah, I definitely think this Magikarp makes Gyarados worth exploring a little bit more. Maybe an expanded. Also, there is still a legal Gyarados in standard. We have the one from Burning Shadows, but that one does damage based on the amount of Magikarps in your discard pile. So
Yeah.
I don't think this one's too relevant for that one.
Right.
But so you might just still play your typical bad Magikarps in that type of deck. But
Yeah.
and expanded to make use of the other Gyarados that did recently rotate, I think this definitely would be the one that you want to go for. Also, in Gyarados GX decks, depending on what route you take Gyarados GX, you would maybe want to play this one as well. So, I'd say it's good. I mean, as good as a Magikarp could be, really.
Oh yeah, it's definitely the best Magikarp. Like it's already going to sit on your bench and not attack, so at least it's protected now.
Definitely. So, since we do have Magikarp, that does mean we have Gyarados, and it is Gyarados GX. So, Gyarados GX, 240 hit points on a stage 1. That's very fitting for Gyarados, I'll say that.
Yeah.
So it has a couple different attacks. It's got Waterfall for a water and 2 colorless, does 70 damage. Second attack, Dragon Calamity for a water and 4 colorless energy, does 100 damage plus 100 more if there is a stadium in play. Then discard that stadium. And then its GX move is Dreadstorm GX for 1 water. Discard 1 energy from each of your opponent's Pokemon. Well, Gyarados, I feel really bad for it because we got a Gyarados EX and a Mega Gyarados EX. Both were not that good. And so when I heard Gyarados was getting a GX, I was like, oh, cool, maybe it can redeem itself from the bad card it got back in Breakpoint. But I've got to say, I am not a fan of this card at all.
No.
This is actually, I think, a pretty bad GX, if I had to just be brutally honest. And that hurts me to say because I know Gyarados has a pretty big following. But let's take a look at, there might be some sort of saving grace to this card. Dreadstorm is decent, I think. And Dragon Calamity can hit for 200, 230 if you do have a Choice Band and Stadium in play. But just for 5 energy. So if you've been playing for a while, you might actually recognize this attack. This is basically Gaia Volcano that was on Primal Groudon. And Primal Groudon was basically only good because it had the Omega Barrier Ancient trait, which means he couldn't be affected by your opponent's item cards, which means he couldn't be like Lysandered or anything like that. Gyarados does not have such an ability, and his attack cost 1 more energy than Primal Groudon's did. And it doesn't have things like Strong Energy to boost its damage output even further. I gotta say, this attack it's pretty terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, what else do you really want to add about that?
It's just bad. Like, pretty much all I had to say about it too was the comparison of that with Groudon and why Groudon's its attack was good compared to how this is bad. Is like they both have the same effect, but different circumstances. Like Groudon had the Omega Barrier and 1 less attack cost and fighting energy, strong energy. So yeah, this is not good. It sucks because I want Gyarados to be good because he's cool, but like he's just not good.
I'll say this: there actually is one combo that a lot of people online have been kind of talking about, and that's
Yeah.
actually Gyarados GX with Shining Celebi.
Okay.
This is like the only, I think, way I could think to make this card half decent.
Yeah.
And so the idea is you play Shining Celebi, which allows you to reuse the attacks of your basic Pokemon or pre-evolutions. Well, there is a Magikarp with Flail that does 10 damage times the amount of damage counters on itself for just
Okay.
a water energy. So the idea is you get out this monstrous Gyarados with 240 hit points. You could even throw muscle dumbbells on it to boost up to 280 if you want to.
Yeah.
And then just swing for 1 energy once your opponent starts, laying into you.
Right.
That's the only real, like, if you're going to play Gyarados, I think that's the only half decent way to do it. But I just don't think there is a good way to play this with, by abusing its normal attacks that are on Gyarados GX.
Yeah.
So I'm still going to say this card is bad. I mean, the Shining
Uh-huh.
Celebi combo seems kind of cute. Maybe that will do something, but your Gyarados basically has to be on the brink of death to really be doing a lot of damage. So
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna say it's bad too.
yeah, guys. So Gyarados, sorry, man.
So next up we have another Reggie. We have Regice. It's a basic water type with 130 HP. Its ability, Iceberg Shield. If you have Regirock in play, prevent all effects of attacks, including damage done to this Pokemon by your opponent's Stage 2 Pokemon's attacks. It has Frost Smash for 70, 3 retreat cost, weak to metal. So, I mean, it seems okay. You can wall Stage 2s and swing for 100 on them if you have Regirock on your bench.
And a choice band.
Yeah, and a choice band. So, yeah, I mean, it's just like the other Reggies, other than Regigigas, it seems okay. It just doesn't seem like great. But I mean, there are a lot of Stage 2s that are being played now. So, it's not a bad ability. Like, the ability is, I think it's decent, but I just don't know how good it'll be.
Better than Regigigas'
Oh, it's
ability.
absolutely better than Regigigas' ability. Don't even invite Regigigas, you guys. Like, just play without him.
Well, I'll say this, though. If you have a choice band, you do one-shot Volcanion.
Yeah.
You do one-shot Turtonator. So that is definitely a good part about Regice in the context of, like, this Reggie-style deck.
Yeah.
The ability is definitely good, walling against Stage 2. So if you're playing this Reggie deck and, you're taking forever to get set up since Regigigas takes 1,000,000 energy, you
Yeah.
can just wall with this for a little bit. So, I mean, it's just really a necessary component to the Reggie deck. That's the only reason you would want to play this, really,
Yeah.
I think. I don't know, maybe you could do some Regice or Regirock style deck if you, like, just with those two, maybe.
Yeah.
But really, you're playing this to make this giant Reggie deck. And it's just a backup attacker that you can use against fire, I think.
Yeah.
And also wall while you build up Regigigas potentially.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
I like it.
I mean, for that reason, I would say keep an eye out for it. I think this card is really only as good as the quality of this Reggie deck or
Yeah.
Regirock that gets printed. So, yeah, I'd say keep an eye out for it, though.
Yeah, keep an eye out for it.
All right, guys. So next up, we have one of my favorite Pokemon getting printed in the set, and that's going to be Miss Magius or Miss Magius. I have no idea how you pronounce this thing. Still don't after all these years. But is a Psychic type, Stage 1, 110 hit points. Nothing too special there, but it has this attack called Chaos Wheel. For 1 Psychic Energy, does 30 damage, and your opponent can't play any tools, special energy, or stadium cards from their hand on their next turn. And then it has this other attack called Black Magic for a Psychic and DCE. Does 20 times the amount of cards in your opponent's hand. So the real attack of interest here is going to be Chaos Wheel. So if you guys have been playing for the past couple formats, you probably remember Giratina EX has this same attack, though it did a lot more damage and had a different energy cost. The effect was still the same. They can't play tools, special energy, or stadiums. And this attack is so good against a number of decks. Just being able to cut off special energy, that's the big one here, I really think. Since so many decks are reliant on special energy. You have Gardevoir GX, you have different Garbodor variants, Golisopod, etc. Zoroark variants that might emerge from Shining Legends. So being able to shut off special energy is so crucial. Tool cards as well can be good. Maybe if your opponent wants to get out their Garbodor with that Garbotoxin ability, you can prevent them from doing that. But the downside to this is that it only does 30 damage. So you're doing 60 if you have a choice band. But because the damage output is so low, I think that will require this card to have like a backup attacker of some sort. Mm-hmm. So I feel like that's been a reoccurring theme with a lot of these psychic Pokemon we've looked at in this set review. What do you think about this card, then, man?
I pretty much agree. Like, Chaos Wheel definitely seems pretty cool. And then Black Magic seems alright too. But yeah, it's just gonna need to have some sort of like a backup attacker, like another, attacker that you can go into, I guess.
Like just to sweep with or something?
Yeah.
Like, I guess you just play like, I don't know, Garbodor.
Right.
You're playing Psychic Energy, so you could do that.
Yeah. Trash Lantern.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're playing DC in your deck, maybe this looks just kind of like a Drampa Garb deck.
Yeah.
Like, maybe you just, like, forgo, like, Drampas or something like that, and you just concentrate on, like, Black Magic, and or not Black Magic, but Chaos Wheel, maybe Trash Lantern in the late game, maybe, like, Potowns, maybe, like, one Necrozma even. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's just, like... The big thing about this card, I love the effect of this attack. I just don't know what deck it really falls into off the top of my head.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm not as excited about this as I was for Giratina EX, for example.
Right.
But I think the effect of the attack is powerful enough to where I'll say... I mean, I think I'm just going to say keep an eye out for it, but I am cautiously optimistic for it. What do you think, Marcus?
Yeah, I'll say keep an eye out for it. I don't know if it'll be great, but it definitely seems like it Chaos Wheel is just like it's a good attack. It doesn't do as much damage obviously as the Giratina one, but I just think it's still worth keeping an eye out on. Next up we got Nihilego GX Psychic type with 180 HP. This one is an Ultra Beast. And then its ability Nihilistic Light. When you play this Pokemon from your hand onto your bench, both Pokemon are now poisoned and confused. So that's definitely interesting for sure. And then its other two attacks are both 3 Psychic Energy, lock up for 120 damage. Your opponent's active Pokemon can't retreat on their next turn. And then Parasite GX, add the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck to their prize cards. So this one's definitely really... I think it's going to be good. Sorry, what were you saying?
Oh, no. You're good.
Oh, okay.
I kind of agree. I'll let you go ahead, though.
Yeah. Like, its ability and its attack both have, like, synergy. Like, you use the ability to poison them and confuse them, and then you lock up to be able to keep them active so they're still poisoned and confused. So, it's definitely a good combo within itself already. And then its GX move is, like... That's going to be so annoying. Yeah, I'm going to, like, literally just get so frustrated when someone Parasite GXs me, and I'm just like, adds 2 more prizes, especially if you, like, haven't even taken any, and then they just, like, here, now you're at 8 prize cards. Like, but then you get to end for 8.
I was just about to say, that's, the good thing.
Yeah, you do get to end for 8.
You can use Counter Catcher as well.
Yeah, oh, yeah, you get to Counter Catcher him, so that works, too. But yeah, I definitely think this might be the best Ultra Beast.
I really like this card. I'm not quite as enthusiastic, but I definitely agree that it's good. So I definitely like the ability, benching it, making both active Pokemon poison and confused. I'm actually really excited about this because in standard format, this actually gives Darkrai GX a way to abuse Dead End GX without having to run like a stage 1 or anything to do status conditions. Like Salazzle or anything like that. Yeah. So I love that it's just a basic you can throw down and use Dead End GX to get an automatic knockout. So I like that. I mean, the GX move is absolutely insane. Like, that's... yeah. Just add 2 cards to your opponent's prize cards. Like, you mill them and make them, like, have to take 2 more knockouts. It's crazy. Yeah. But the problem is it is Psychic type. Or, like, its energy costs are Psychic type. And Psychic right now just does not have a lot of energy acceleration,
Yeah.
which means you would have to play some sort of Max Elixir based deck with lots of Psychic energies, I think. And, so that begs the question, okay, what are you going to play with it? Because Nihilego is not really a main attacker, or I really don't think so, at least. Maybe its disruption factor can make it one, but just looking at it at face value, I don't think this would be your main attacker. I think you would need something else. So maybe you play like, I don't know, maybe play Necrozma GX as well, or maybe just Drampa and Max Elixirs, and maybe, I don't know. It's like that's what I'm struggling with. I just don't know what you play this with. Like, I like the GX move. I like the ability. Even the attack isn't bad if you have a way to power it up. So maybe you just play this with. I mean, this is a potential partner for Savali GX. You could say that since it can accelerate energy. So I'm thinking some Psychic deck with Max Elixirs, Savali GX, or a tech for Darkrai GX.
Yeah.
What deck ideas I guess would like come to mind really for you, Marcus?
The first thing that comes to mind, honestly, is Max Elixir. Excuse me, Max Elixir, and honestly, just like I don't know, like Quad Nihilego GX is kind of like what I'm thinking of. Just because like you can put it down and then lock them active with the attack and stuff. So, I mean, I guess they could Ranger out of that. I don't know if people play Ranger.
Nah,
Yeah.
I don't think they will.
So I don't know. That's just the only one that comes to mind for me right off the bat. But I'm sure there are definitely other ways to play it, and probably better ways to play it.
Yeah. Again, I'm just not too sure like what deck it's gonna fit into, but I really like it. Maybe if you do play like some weird Savali Ultra Beast box deck, I would definitely probably play one of these. Why not? You're already accelerating energy out of the discard pile, so go for it.
Right.
There is the Shining Mew that came out that can accelerate energy, but I'm really not a fan of that for non-double energy acceleration. Like,
Yeah.
I think that card's only good if you're accelerating DCEs and counter energy, not so much for like basics.
Right.
So I definitely think the card is good. I just don't know where it immediately just fits into though. That's kind of my final thoughts on it though.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's good too.
So next up we have the last of the Reggies. I'm sure Marcus, you'll love to get this one out the way after we're done with this one. But we have Regirock. It's fighting type, 130 hit points. Its ability, Rocky Mountain Howl. Your Registeel's attacks do 10 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. And then its attack, Hard Swing for 2 fighting and a Carlist is 110, and the damage is not affected by resistance. So like I mentioned with Registeel, or I'm sorry, with Regis, I think this card is really only as good as the other partners in the Regibox, or whatever you want to call it. I really do like the fact that it boosts Registeel's attacks as opposed to Regice's, because Registeel is actually probably the best attacker in the deck, I think.
Yeah.
So being able to boost that, maybe if you have 2 Regirock in play, your Registeel can do what, like 50 base, then with a Choice Band do 80 for 1 energy.
Yeah.
If you have Choice Band 2 Regirocks in play. So I mean, that seems kind of good, I guess. But beyond that, I really don't see this being much of an attacker. I don't think there's many great fighting weak Pokemon right now. I mean, there's Drampa.
Yeah.
But
it's like it.
Yeah, I think that's it. And it has an awkward attack cost, so I'm not sure if you would even be able to power this thing up efficiently to swing on a Drampa. So, again, like I was going to say with Regice, it's I'd say keep an eye out for it. It's only as good as the other partners for the Regi deck.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with all that. I definitely think keep an eye out for it. Was Silvally weak to fighting, I guess? Maybe?
Oh,
was
yeah,
colorless,
that's true.
so-
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
not used to Savali being, like, in the meta.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
You know, when talking about it, so...
Right, so you could hit that thing for weakness, too.
Yeah, that's a good point. Didn't think about that
That's
one.
the only other thing I can think of, though.
Well, I'll say this, too. If we just mentioned Nihilego could potentially be good for Darkrai in Standard. If that's the case, then
Yeah.
Regirock could be a good attacker then.
Tauros also weak. I don't know if people still play that, really, but...
Nah, not really. Not as of lately, but
Yeah.
it's Again, just I think one just to keep an eye out on though.
So next up we have Guzzlord GX, Darkness type with 210 HP. This is another basic Ultra Beast Pokemon. Its first attack for 1 energy, Eat Sloppily. Discard the top 5 cards of your deck. If any of those cards are energy cards, attach them to this Pokemon. Then its next attack, Tyrannical Hole. That one is 3 dark, 2 colorless, so 5 energy to do 180 damage. So definitely a solid amount of damage, but definitely a huge attack cost as well. And then its GX move, Glutton GX, is 5 dark energy, 100 damage. If your opponent's Pokemon is knocked out by damage from this attack, take 2 more prize cards. So
That is the best pre-release attack ever in the history of the game, I think.
oh yeah, you win your round if you get 5 dark energy on your Glutton on your Guzzlord GX.
Because it accelerates itself with its first
Yeah.
attack. So if you pull this out of Crimson Invasion pre-release, just play this and
Yeah.
39 energy. Literally, that is all you
Literally,
need.
that is all you will need. Like you win your pre-release.
Outside of a pre-release, though, Marcus, how do you feel about it?
I don't know if it's that great, just because it's got such a huge attack cost. I mean, I don't know. Again, like maybe there's that Ultra Beast box thingy with Silvally, and you can get like enough energy to be able to attack and stuff with this guy. But it's just like it's such a huge attack cost. Like there's so many Pokemon. Why do they make so many Pokemon in this set that all have a 5 attack cost of some sort? Like the Regigigas, the Gyarados, and now Guzzlord and stuff. Like they've all got these like it's just weird how all of these Pokemon have 5 attack costs now. But I don't know. It seems like I would keep an eye out on it at the very least, but I think it might somehow be okay. I definitely keep an eye out for it though.
Yeah, I will say, kind of my early thoughts for this card. Again, we haven't done any testing at the time of filming for Crimson Invasion, but outside of just like being the BDIF and pre-releases, a couple ideas come to mind. I kind of like this as a one-of in Darkrai. In standard format. If you saw our Darkrai post-rotation video, I actually played one Necrozma GX in the list as a EXP share target. And the reason I did that is while you're kind of like taking knockouts and going through the course of the game with your Darkrai's, you have this Necrozma that's getting built up for a late game to do a Blackray GX to just sweep with. And so I think Guzzlord kind of fills a similar role if you're playing like a Turbo Dark style deck in standard. You play like one of these, throw like an EXP share on it, and just throughout the course of the game as you're getting bodied, you get the energy onto it. And, you know, between that and a couple max elixirs, at the end of the game, you can maybe do one Glutton GX to just kind of take your last big knockout and win that way. So that is kind of the way I would go with this.
Yeah.
If you're playing a Turbo Dark style deck anyways, you're probably playing anywhere from like 11 to 14 energy.
Right.
And so something like Eat Sloppily, even though it's still a little risky to do, you could debatably use that attack in that style of deck as well.
Yeah.
Of course, we mentioned Savali earlier. That's an option, but I don't know, man. I think I am the least optimistic out of this Ultra Beast, out of all the ones we've mentioned so far.
Yeah.
It's definitely like a super interesting card to look at, and I really like a lot of the stuff that it has going on, like being able to accelerate energy for itself, even though you have to discard cards from your deck. But most importantly, that awesome GX attack. If you can find a way to efficiently be able to pull off that attack, I like this card. If you can't find a way to pull off that attack, I don't like this card. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. If there's a deck that can make use of the GX attack, then it's good. If not, it's probably bad. So next up, we have Alolan Executor GX. This is probably my most anticipated GX of any set, not because I like Alolan Executor or anything like that, but I have just been excited to see how they were actually going to like put this card on the art of a card.
Yeah.
Because of how huge it is.
Oh god.
So we have Alolan Executor, 220 hit points, stage 1 GX, dragon type. So it did become part dragon when it got its Alolan form, apparently.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at it. It has Tropical Head for our grass energy, just 20 times the amount of energy attached to this Pokemon to one of your opponent's Pokemon. So a little snipe attack. Has Dragon Hammer for a grass and 3 colorless is 120, and your opponent's active is now confused. And its GX move, Tower Go Round GX for a grass and 3 colorless is 180, and move as many energy attached to your Pokemon to your other Pokemon any way that you like. But it's weak to Fairy, so it's bad.
Yeah.
That's really about how it goes for this card, I think.
Not only is it weak to Fairy, but you're already doing most of Gardevoir's damage for it by powering yourself up, putting 4 energy down.
Yeah. I mean, the upside to it is that with its GX move, you actually can move your energy off of your Exeggutor if you choose. But I think the most interesting attack is the first attack, Tropical Head, in order to just do damage anywhere that you want. But the problem is you have to have a way to power this up. Double Dragon Energy, unfortunately, and for some reason, has not had a reprint yet. So how do you power this thing up? And I think the way that you would do that is actually with Venusaur from Shining Legends, which makes all of your grass energy provide 2 grass instead of 1.
Yeah.
So if you have a Venusaur in play and 2 grass energy on your Alolan Exeggutor, you get to snipe 80 anywhere on your opponent's field. You can also do Tower Go Round for just 2 energy attachments. You can do Dragon Hammer for just 2 energy attachments. I think if you're going to play Alolan Exeggutor, that is the only way to play it at the time of filming. I don't think you can afford to play this with double colorless energies or anything like that. But what do you think, man?
I pretty much agree. Like, definitely the first attack is the most interesting one. The GX, it does seem neat for sure as well. But yeah, the first attack is the main one I'm looking at. And then, yeah, I think Venusaur is really the best way to play it since we don't have Double Dragon. I don't know if in Expanded maybe a Double Dragon variant would be better than Venusaur. But right now in Standard, for sure, I think the Venusaur that makes you have, your grass energy count as 2 instead of just a 1. I think that might be the best way to do it too.
Yeah, because I don't think there's any other grass acceleration or dragon acceleration that I can think of.
Right. Like there's
I think that's literally it.
Yeah, like Lurantis can kind of do it, but I don't know if that's better than just having Venusaur make all your grass energy count as 2.
Yeah, just because you would still need 4 physical energies on an Exeggutor.
Yeah.
And there's better things to put that energy on too if you're playing just straight grass energy. You're better off just playing, I think, something like Tapu Bulu.
Right.
So, yeah, I would say that's the only way I would consider playing this card. What do you think, though? You say it's good, bad, somewhere in the middle, man?
In the middle, I guess. Keep an eye out for it. I don't want to call it bad, but I do want to call it bad. But at the same time, I just feel like maybe it's not. I don't know what is making me feel like maybe it's not, but I'm gonna be optimistic and say keep an eye out for it. But I kind of want to say that it's bad, but.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to pull the trigger and say it's not good because, I think because of Buzzwole, again, this is just kind of like an early metagame prediction. I could be wrong about this, but because of Buzzwole, I do think people are going to start playing Mr. Mime. And if they're playing Mr. Mime, that does prevent your damage from Exeggutor for its first attack, which is the most interesting attack it has.
Right.
And if you're playing Venusaur to increase your energy acceleration, you probably don't have room for something like an Alolan Muck in your deck as well to shut off Mr. Mime. So I just don't see it. Maybe if Mr. Mime doesn't see play, this would be a decent attack, but it's still also weak to Fairy, and
right.
I'm going to say it's not good, unfortunately.
So next up we got Miltank. It's a colorless basic Pokemon with 100 HP. Its ability, Moo Moo Ale. As long as this Pokemon is your active Pokemon, when you attach an energy from your hand to one of your Pokemon, you may heal 90 damage from that Pokemon. And then it's got an attack, Hip Drop, for 60 damage for 3 colorless energy. Flip a coin. If heads, it does 30 more damage. So I think the most interesting this thing could be with is probably with Gardevoir, because you can heal like 180 for attaching 2 energy. Like, this is why'd they make this? Why'd they want to make Gardevoir better? Like,
dude, I'm gonna say this is one of my top cards in the entire set. Like,
yeah,
I think it might be too ballsy for me to call this the best card in the set.
Right.
But this Miltank is absolutely insane. So, like, this is good for Guardy because
Yeah.
the ability still counts for the effect of Moo Moo Milk.
Yeah, yeah. So,
So-
you can keep healing. Like, you can heal
Or if you-
almost all of the damage on Guard. Like, you can heal Guardy's entire HP with 3 energy attachments. Like,
Yes. Any deck that plays like energy acceleration from hand, or even just like decks that play like a high float stone count and have like tanky attackers,
yeah.
can benefit from this card. Like another deck I'm curious to try out is actually Solgaleo GX or even Metagross, for that matter. I think both of those, something like that, could benefit from this. Just because they play really tanky attackers and being able to keep them alive is something that they already try to do.
Yeah.
Maybe it's better for Solgaleo just because Metagross already has Max Potion.
Right.
But yeah, Gardevoir is the big one that really comes to mind. But again, like I said, if there's any decks that play heavy Floatstone counts already, you can, in between turns when something gets knocked out, you can promote your Miltank with a Floatstone, heal off all the damage or heal 90 damage, and then retreat for turn back into your attacker. Similarly to like the old Toad Slurpuff, in between knockouts, they would promote Slurpuff, draw some cards, and retreat into Toad and keep on annoying your opponent.
Yeah.
So, especially like you said with Gardevoir, this ability is so nuts.
Oh my goodness.
Like if you're not one-shotting Gardevoir and they play this card, you're gonna have a bad time.
Yeah. It's not going to be fun. Oh, jeez.
So, are there any other cards you can think of that really make you excited for this?
That's the main thing that comes to mind. I'm sure for everybody is just Gardevoir is going to be able to attach a bazillion energies and then just heal itself entirely every turn. Yeah, nothing else that I can really think of.
I kind of like this in maybe Golisopod. Maybe, nah. I was gonna say because they always like want a Guzma every turn or Acerola, so like
yeah.
they can put up Miltank, but they would have to reattach their energy to like a fresh Golisopod anyway, so maybe that's a bad idea. But Gardevoir is the big one, and I am curious to try this with Solgaleo GX as well. That's gonna be like my pet deck idea I want to try with this.
Yeah.
But really just Gardevoir in any deck that plays tanky attackers with a high floatstone count. So, or yeah, that's about it, I think.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm definitely going to say this card's good, though.
Definitely. Alright guys, so next up we have the last of the trainer cards that are going to fill out this set. The first one's going to be Dash Pouch. So it's a new tool card, and whenever the Pokemon this card is attached to retreats, instead of discarding the energy, you return the energy to their hand. I just gotta say off the bat, I really just don't like this card.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. This could potentially be decent in like a Magnezone style deck or something like that, where you're attaching energy from hand. But other than that, I don't see much of a use for it. I think Floatstone just outclasses it.
Yeah, I think so, too.
Trying to think.
I mean, it lets you move your energy around, kind of, but, like...
Yeah. Maybe like for Gardevoir could be decent, or like... But no, let's be real. You're not playing this in Gardevoir.
Yeah.
What am I talking about? I'm playing another Miltank. I'm going to play like 2 or 3 Miltanks before I play this thing.
Oh, man.
So, yeah, I think like once Floatstone rotates, maybe I would consider playing this card. But until then, I just think it's outclassed, man. What about you?
Yeah, no, I agree. I'd rather just have a Flowstone on and retreat for free. If you want to get weird and like be able to move your energy around, like use this as a way to like pick up energy and put it back down elsewhere, you could do that. But I think I just prefer Floatstone, honestly. So next up we got Lusamine. It's a supporter card. Put 2 in any combination of Stadium and supporter cards from your discard pile into your hand. I mean, it seems neat. You can grab back Stadiums and supporter cards. We don't have Versus Seeker anymore, so it kind of helps in that way, but it's your supporter for the turn.
Yeah, like, I'm kind of iffy about this card. Like,
Yeah.
I almost feel like the game would have to slow down even more for me to want to play this.
Yeah.
But you never know. I could be maybe a little too harsh. We actually have seen a couple of decks pop up playing Steven in the past, and that
Right.
card kind of saw similar criticism, so...
Yeah.
We've seen Quad Lapras decks in the past play Steven. We've seen Primal Groudon play Steven.
Right.
So, again, in those types of decks, like those slower, grindier decks, maybe this would see some play. We don't, like Mark said, we don't have Earth Seeker, so there's actually not really a good form of supporter recovery in the current format.
Yeah.
So Lusamine does kind of fill that role. And also, there's not really a good form of stadium recovery just in general. So
Yeah.
if you are playing a deck that is extremely reliant on your stadium to carry out the deck's main strategy, I would imagine you might play one Lusamine mainly to get back stadium cards. So it's at first glance, I feel like this is a super underwhelming card. But again, if there's a deck that pops up that does need a stadium to really thrive, and it needs it every turn or whatever, Lusamine could be good. So I'm just gonna say keep an eye out on it. What do you think, man?
Say keep an eye out on it. It's definitely slow, but I mean, keep an eye out. It might do something cool.
So next up, we have a new stadium called. This one's going to be Sea of Emptiness. So each player's Pokemon that has any special conditions retain those special conditions after evolving or devolving. So this is actually kind of cool because we are in a somewhat evolution-heavy format right now. And, getting out of special conditions is honestly kind of easy in this format, I think. So Sea of Emptiness could help your Salazzle decks if you want to play that, like we mentioned earlier. But, other than that, I'm not sure. What else is... Actually, this could be good for, like, Espeon GX. Because a lot of times people will just evolve out of the confusion that they do.
Yeah.
But, I don't know, Marcus, are you actually going to... If you're playing Espeon GX, for example, are you really going to play this?
Nah. I don't think so.
That's kind of how I'm feeling. It's like...
Yeah.
The effect is nice, but it's definitely a very reactionary stadium where you might not even get a benefit out of it before it gets bumped by your opponent's stadium.
Yeah.
So for that reason, I might say this card is just not quite good enough. I'm going to say it's bad. I don't think it's like a horrible card, but I just don't think it's quite good enough to really make it into a competitive deck.
Yeah. No, I agree with that for sure. So next up we've got Ravaged Plains. It's another stadium card, and this one makes it where the attacks of each Darkness and Dragon Pokemon in play, both yours and your opponent's, do 10 more damage to the defending Pokemon. Seems neat. I guess if I'm playing a Dragon-type deck, I'd probably play this, but I don't think I'm playing a Dragon-type deck since Gardevoir is like one of the best decks in format right now. Dark decks, this could maybe be worth it, but I feel like they're going to play like Altar of the Moon or something instead, but I don't know.
Yeah, I kind of like this card. I think this card will only really see play, I think, based on the numbers that decks need to hit for. So, for example, if there's a solid dragon-type attacker that comes out, but it's like just 10 damage short of doing 2-hit knockouts, or 1-hit knockouts, or whatever it may be, I think you would probably see this card be played.
Right.
Or similarly, if, for example, if dark-type decks get a better way to retreat, I think you could see this be played over Altar of the Moon.
Right.
I think Altar of the Moon is just generally better, assuming you're playing like Darkrai, EX and GX or something like that.
Yeah.
But, I like this better than the last stadium we covered, but there's just nothing right now that really screams like it needs this card.
Yeah.
So for that reason, I might just say keep an eye out for it. I don't think it's bad, but I just don't see its immediate use.
Yeah, I'm going to agree. I don't think it's like bad. I just don't see it having an immediate use, but maybe down the line it gets better or something. It just doesn't seem that great right now, but keep an eye out for it for sure.
All right, so we are on to the very last card in the whole set, and that is going to be a new energy card called Counter Energy. So it's a special energy, provides one colorless energy, but when this card is attached to one of your Pokemon, excluding GX and EX, and you have more prize cards remaining than your opponent, this card provides 2 energy of every type. So basically, if you're losing, it provides a double rainbow energy. This is actually very similar to an old card we used to have back in the day called Scramble Energy, Granted, that one could only be attached to evolution Pokemon and provided 3 of any type, but the concept is the same. You had to be behind on prizes in order to activate it, and that card saw a ton of play during its lifespan. So Counter Energy, I think, is very similar, and I think might be the same case here.
Yeah. It'll work in your Reggie deck when you start losing.
Yeah, so I think this is definitely a card I would consider playing in the Reggie deck. Probably like a bunch of Steel Energy and some Counter Energies. Maybe like 4 Counter Energy, like 8 Steel or something like that.
Right.
So another thing you have to look at is there's just so many cards in the card pool that are non-EXs and GXs that have a 2 or more retreat cost. It'd be impossible for us to go through all of them in, you know, the length of just a set review.
Yeah.
So I think we're really going to have to look through the card pool and really maybe revisit some cards that maybe didn't have, you know, enough support at the time. Maybe some cards in the past may have been too slow in order to get out and power up, but Counter Energy kind of provides answers for those types of decks.
Yeah.
So, you know, I really like how Pokemon has been printing cards that are rewarding for slower paced, more like setup based decks to emerge. So for that reason, I like Counter Energy. I don't know the immediate use for it. I like the Reggie idea, but beyond that, I don't have an immediate idea off the top of my head without testing to really figure out what would be best with this card. What do you think?
Yeah, I kind of agree. Like that Reggie thing, that's the only thing I can think of right now. I'm sure there's some other way to play with this, but yeah, like you said, without testing, I don't really know. But I definitely like it. It seems cool.
Yeah, I'll say this. The only other idea I can think of is maybe if you're playing something like a Raichu GX deck or a Darkrai EX deck, you can put Counter Energy on, or even like a Xerneas Break deck. These are the other type of ideas I really like. So you can play something like the Hoopa from Shining Legends that is immune from EXs and GXs, and you can use it as kind of like a safe haven to keep your energy on. So if you ever start going down on prizes, you know, your Counter Energy will activate and suddenly provide your field with more energy, boosting your attacks.
Yeah.
So that's another use I would see for this card. But I'm definitely really excited to see what the community comes up with. I feel like this is going to be a card that might have a lot of weird rogue decks emerge out of.
Yeah, absolutely.
So for all that, I'm going to say it's good. Like I say, I don't know the immediate use, but I think this card is too decent not to pop up at some point. But yeah, guys, that's going to be pretty much it for this set review. Crimson Invasion is actually a lot smaller than the other Sun and Moon sets, so I think it's maybe our shortest set review in some time. But Marcus, you got any closing thoughts for this set overall, though?
Not much. I am excited for, what's his name again? Silvani or whatever.
Silvally GX.
Yeah, Silvally GX. Yeah, so that guy's, I don't know, he's just, I like him.
Vanilla,
Mega
Manectric
thing. I like the idea of doing him with Ultra Beasts and whatnot. So that'll be cool. And then I also like that Nihiligo or whatever. Because he was like a jellyfish too, wasn't he?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I love jellyfish. So like that, and he seemed solid. So I'm stoked for him too. Those are probably like the two highlights, I guess, for me.
Yeah. I think my favorite card might be Miltank. I'm not gonna say that's the best card, but that's actually my favorite card. I think that came out of the set.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff, honestly, I wasn't too excited for. Another reason we have kind of a shorter set reviews because there's a lot of just mediocre cards that came out in this set that we had to glance over. Honestly, it's probably the worst out of all of these Sun and Moon sets so far, which had happened sooner or later. The Sun and Moon block has been pretty great so far, so they couldn't keep printing broken cards every set. But yeah, some highlights: Miltank. I also like Silvally GX. I think Buzzwole is really good. It's not really my play style.
Yeah.
I'm not a big basic person,
right?
But that definitely seems really good. Yeah, the Ultra Beasts in general have a lot of potential, and I'm really curious what else they do with Ultra Beasts in the future. But I mean, overall, it's a solid set. Nothing mind blowing.
Yeah.
But I definitely it's a decent set overall.
Yeah.
But yeah, guys, that's pretty much it. Definitely let us know in the comments below, what are your favorite cards in the set? Are there some combos we missed? Are there any cards that we excluded from this review you think we should have given mention to, definitely let us know below in the comments section. But as usual, guys, feel free to like and subscribe, and definitely stay tuned to the channel. We're going to have a ton of Crimson Invasion coverage coming out over the next couple weeks. And also, if you can support us either on our Patreon /RareCandyTCG or on our online store at rarecandytcg.com, it'd be greatly appreciated. But with that, we appreciate you watching, and we'll see you for the next one.